Hmm.
Unblocked podcast. I am Keith here for Friday, September 22nd, and I am joined by Brian and Coach, and we have a special guest, Danielle Joyner Kelley, with us. There's a lot of football to talk about this weekend, a lot going on in the world of sports, but we're going to get right into it. But first, we're going to let Danielle and Coach pass it out a little bit. She's going to talk about her experience with FSU coaching legend Bobby Bowden, and I think we're going to put some Brent Reynolds in this. Why not? So, Coach Danielle, why don't you two take it away?
Danielle, I'll start with, again, you're obviously a big Florida State fan and love the Seminoles. How did that start? Where did there had to be some place that began that won your heart. What was it?
Well, my family is all from South Alabama, Dothan, Headland, Abbeville area.
Peanut Festival.
A peanut festival, yes, goodness gracious. And my father moved here when I was born and took a job in Tallahassee. I was the first to be born here. I am the renegade Knoll of the family because my family are Bama fans. Let's just put it that way. And he worked for the Florida Highway Patrol Auxiliary for 20 years. And part of that was working the field at Florida State. Being one of Coach Bowden's escorts at times, not Mr. Billy Smith, not the man.
Right.
That you can always see there's 2 or 3 around a coach at any time. And so a lot of times I was with him and grew up on those sidelines during the 80s. I wasn't born in the 80s, but we'll leave that alone. When I could remember games, that is. And and got to experience Florida State, fell in love. I mean, there's no atmosphere to me like Doak Campbell Stadium, especially, and I'm talking about a time where we didn't have the new cathedral we have now. The end zones weren't even closed in. It was a completely different. It was the players. It was the electricity. It was Coach Bowden. It was everything. I decided I never wanted to leave Tallahassee after that. A lot of my friends did. Graduated with a dual bachelor's degree in 1999 and moved on to law school at FSU where I graduated in 2003.
Well, and you're right about the Doak Campbell. I mean, I was a part of a team at UT Chattanooga in 1984 that we had just won our conference championship in the Southern Conference, but we had one of those $100,000 games that we got paid to come to Tallahassee so we could pay for the other sports.
$100,000, Coach, now is $2.5 million.
Sure. So. There's a lot, 100,000 back in those days. I mean, head coaches were making 40,000, so it was a different world, and so we get the police escort in and all that, and the sirens and all that, and get beat 37-0. Their quarterback was Kirk Coker. If you remember Kirk Coker, Kirk Coker played 1 year at Florida State. He transferred in from North Alabama,
UNA,
because he couldn't beat me out. And he transfers to Florida State and starts at Florida State.
Coach, how many yards did you throw for that year?
At UNA, about 1,400 or 1,500, something like that. We were an option
That's
team.
Respectable, though.
But anyhow, back to the story. Florida State beats us 37-0. But the worst part of it was the running stats up on the scoreboard at Doak Campbell. Besides it was very unfortunate that we wore white pants and the Indian came out through the spear in the middle of the field, and a lot of our guys soiled themselves, including coaches. And then you go up and look at the scoreboard in the fourth quarter, and they got 392 yards rushing, and you got 8. I mean, that just is a bad. You really wish that they would just turn that off. I mean, come on, you're getting your win. But it was a great experience to be in that atmosphere, even in 1984. It was very much so.
Still, to me, and I know I got people on here that'll debate. To me, the greatest entrance in college football. Period. Just it is. There's something about it. And there's a lot of history behind it. The Florida State, of course, is very close with the Seminole tribe. And everything we do is approved by them. And it's a well-known fact that when Osceola comes out on Renegade and throws the spear, I mean, that's typical for games. If Osceola gets off the horse, this is actually part of the tradition. It signifies war.
Wow.
No, it's actually, yeah.
I didn't know that. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating
I'll tell you
fact.
that
Well,
See,
now,
Keith would have to get up with his little Notre Dame blanket in the
well
background. Okay.
the show honestly on ACC Network from 1999. And we're probably going to cover the 1999 FSU season with a lot of different people, Coach Cottrell and some local Mobile folks, and but we'll go into that later and announce later on everything going forward. But his Notre Dame flag, do you have a problem with that,
Danielle,
I
Danielle?
have a problem with a lot of things Notre Dame. I think that started back to 1993. I mean, the year we headed into the national championship. Yeah.
You mean the
Huh? I just, yeah, no, Notre Dame is a subject, especially these days with all the conference realignment talk and stuff y'all discuss.
Right.
So I just leave it alone. No, I
well,
don't.
I'm gonna get us back on friendly terms here, as opposed to
I'm just giving a hard time.
what I've been listening to. So now the obviously one of the great Florida, besides Lee Corso, one of the great Florida State alumni is Burt Reynolds. Did you ever have a chance to spend any time around him when he was at the games or hanging out with Coach Bowden?
With Coach Bowden, yes. Burt Reynolds, no. My father did,
Right.
because he was, when Burt Reynolds was married to Lonnie Anderson, they were here. My father on the field would be part of that protective detail at times. So he did, and utmost respect. I mean, I loved all his movies anyway.
Sure.
So
Well, I'm gonna tie all that together, with a quick story. Coach Bowden came to the high school I was coaching at the time, Davidson, and spent 3 hours on our campus signing autographs, etc., being so gracious as people found out he was there, and basically they let school out during the last period of the day for kids and teachers to come down and get autographs from him. He sat there and just went on and on and on and did it, watched our workouts. And then I got to spend an hour and a half with him in my office, and he was going through my library and looking at some books that I had in the library, and he found one called The Turnaround about Alabama's first season with Coach Bryant coming back. And he said, "I've never read that book, Coach." And I said, "Well, take it with you, sir." "Oh, I can't take your book. I'll dadgum forget to send it back to you, And I know, Coach, take the book. So he takes it, and 3 weeks later, it comes back in the mail, and then it comes back in the mail with this book, The Last Coach. And so I open it up and look at it. I thought, well, how cool is that? And inside there was a, handwritten note from Coach Bowden on his personal letterhead. "Fred, thanks for loaning me the book Turnaround. It was about the only book about the bear that I hadn't read. Didn't take long since I was very familiar with most of the players and coaches it covered. You have a great program. Keep it up, Bobby Bowden." So that was really neat, and I got that, and then I just sort of opened it up and looked inside. And as I looked inside, this is in there, which is the note that Burt Reynolds wrote to Coach Bowden when he gave him the book. And I'm looking at it to Bobby, my special friend. As far as I'm concerned, you're the last coach, my hero, my brother. Enjoy the other great man from Alabama with love and respect, Buddy Burt Reynolds. And I would like to say, as a Christian leader of men, that I sent this book back to him, but I did not. And I held on to it, and it's been in my library ever since. And but all both those are really two of my prized possessions. It's really cool.
I don't think I'd send it back either. So, to be honest, some things you gotta hold on to.
Mark can always sign him another book. Yeah, or he could have, yes.
That's great, Coach. All right, well, we'll get moving on here. Danielle, we want you to join in on this, but on Fridays we come up with our storylines going into the weekend. So, Coach, we'll let you go first. What is your football or anything? What's your storyline heading into the weekend here?
Well, being an SEC guy and knowing that my wife Susan is loading up tomorrow with family going to Tuscaloosa to watch Alabama and Ole Miss. Does Alabama lose 2 home games in the same season? It doesn't happen very often. And how does their quarterback play? I believe he's going to play really well. I believe he's going to come back, bounce back, since he's now the man and it's been cleaned up for him. But it's obviously, if Ole Miss goes in there and beats Alabama in Tuscaloosa, in this state, I mean, the sky will be falling. I mean, the crazies that call in on Feinbaum will lose their minds. And it will. I mean, Susan may just stay in the house for 48 hours. I'm not sure that she just won't even deal with it. So it could be rough if that were to happen.
What's your storyline going into the weekend?
My storyline, honestly, is gratitude and the attitude of gratitude. I talked to somebody that was going through a hard time today, and it's not about football. The game's great, and it's great to be a fan, but to go through something that you struggle with, and Coach and I talk all the time about faith, and Keath and I have talked about faith and family and fellowship, and I can't thank Osteo Strong right across the street on Hillcrest for giving me motion back in my shoulder that, like someday I'm going to be able to drive in the north, and I'm going to use both arms and my middle finger, Keath, because that's what you have to drive with. So
pretty much.
And
especially when you folks from down here come up.
Yeah, well, it's kind of attitude of gratitude. I was very impressed by somebody that I spoke to through Melissa and Jarrett McCraw. And if you've got any injury, go see them. It's less than a copay to do that for every month, and you can do it every day. And Gracie and Zach have been wonderful. And lastly, I want to say cheers to Madison County High School, where my daughter Maddie is a cheerleader. They're playing, Coach, you're going to have to help me here, Kate Duncan Smith. Are you familiar with that
Kate
school?
Duncan Smith. Madison County should win. Let's just go with that.
Absolutely. So that's the one game, and I'll have Maddie and Harper. Harper is so excited to be on this podcast in the next couple of weeks. So we'll go from there.
But and I'll follow up with the Osteo Strong people. When Susan and I started our semi-pro football project 5 years ago that we just sold, semi-pro football ministry, they were one of the first ones to come in and give us money to back the ministry to help us get it off the ground and buy equipment and that kind of stuff. So very, very good people, very community-minded people.
And it's all about faith, family, and fellowship. And I've met so many great people there. And, I stay for an hour, and they're like, your machine's off. And, you talk to other people what they're battling health-wise, and it's just a positive – everything lifts all boats when you're positive and you're just kind of going through something, and you're going to get better if you surround yourself with good people. And that's what we've done here on the Unblocked podcast. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, next, my storyline for the weekend is Ohio State quarterback. Now, I say quarterback in full because you've got Justin Fields, and I'm from Chicago Bears fan. I'm going to get into this later. We'll just say Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. That kind of sums that up. CJ Stroud down at Houston, and ND hosting Ohio State. And for once and forever, Notre Dame lost a quarterback advantage, in my opinion. Ohio State may have the better players all around, but so this is going to be a big weekend for Ohio State quarterbacks to show. On that, here.
I can't hear it. That went out on me for just a
Yeah,
second.
you're breaking up. You're breaking up a little bit there, Keith.
Oh, that's very in full. It we that was it. You go ahead.
Are we? Is it? I'm sorry. He broke up on me at the end. I'm still scared it's my audio that's messing things up. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can
Because
hear you,
the
Danielle. Go ahead.
Okay, my story of the weekend is Florida State and Clemson, and without question, not just because, but because this is a huge opportunity for Florida State. We all know how many years we've lost to Clemson. We all are aware, and a lot of changes have been made, and FSU is, kind of back on top. So of all of that, it's more of a message of, because in my opinion, and this is a whole nother show, you guys can always go into Florida State and the reasons we joined the ACC. Florida State built the football conference. I mean, to me, there's no question. And it's time for us to take it back. Whether Clemson's ranked or not, everybody's always going to think of them like they are. We've dealt with that. We've lived through that. So this is the chance to take back the narrative. And it's a huge, 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 huge game for us.
What's the feeling like, Danielle, in Tallahassee right now? I mean, does it feel like 1999 when Bobby Bowden finished the season undefeated?
1999 is hard to judge anything by. 1999 was perfection. Like Coach Bowden told me in an interview once, he had everything: offensive line, defensive line, secondary, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver. He had it all. And there are some certain positions right now that we're a little weaker on, I would say, than that team. But at the same time, not so much. We have a lot of depth at a lot of positions, period, compared to past years. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. So, I think Florida State is in a position, absolutely. I kind of have a feeling about this game like I did the LSU game. I don't think it may be as close as you think, one way or another.
Yeah,
there's in that.
Very good.
We're excited to have you, and I'm not going to announce anything, but we got big, exciting things coming up with you and Pete in Tallahassee coming very soon, and I can't wait to announce that.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely a very, very fun football town. I love Tallahassee. It's my hometown. I believe garnet and gold. Let's just put it that way.
Very
All
good.
right.
Keith, go ahead.
All right. Well, we'll just keep moving on here. We'll get into the college football now for sure. I'll go first. I'm going to handle what I call handling the Big 10, Big 12. And everybody, he's back.
Who?
Jim Harbaugh has finally returned. He was cast into the void over some cheeseburgers. His team was valiant, stayed together, found their way through what most experts call a true gauntlet test to open the season. 3 games at home? You got to be kidding me. I mean, look, this guy found a $5 Jim Harbaugh jersey, which I think he wanted to buy for free because it says free Harbaugh on there. He got out of high school early, protesting Jim Harbaugh's erroneous suspension. And, but I think he's relieved that now Harbaugh is back for what could be the third toughest opponent of the season in the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Now, some people say this is an easy schedule, but me, I think this is an incredibly difficult schedule. My name's not Urban Meyer, so I don't know who that guy is, but I'm just saying Michigan is back. They're ready to roll. And
I think I think you're probably Urban Meyer's press secretary with that, what you did there. And appreciate it, but it's kind of what Urban Meyer said on Twitter this morning. So,
and I do appreciate the sarcasm. I do. It's very entertaining.
So
I love it.
Michigan heavy favorite. They're gonna. Rutgers is good for them. They are undefeated. So again, this does make them Michigan's biggest test of the season, but this is going to be nothing to it. Another 2 home games up in Michigan. Michigan State hosting Maryland. Maryland also an undefeated team. Michigan State trying just to, on the field at least, move on and try to at least give their people something to cheer about. And then Iowa Penn State, Happy Valley, you got an undefeated Iowa team and an undefeated Penn State team.
Is that a night game, Keith? Is that night game?
Let's see here.
There's something different when you go to Penn State at night, and
they're 6:30. So
okay,
yeah. My game.
I was glad when the schedule came out, Keith, when Michigan played at noon at Penn State, and
you don't want to go into Happy Valley at night. The biggest thing in the Big Ten this weekend is going to be Notre Dame hosting Ohio State. As if you follow our podcast, as I talk about every week with Notre Dame, is that last year we weren't expected to be that good. Ohio State put up a fight even after losing our quarterback within the first half. This year we have a quarterback advantage, which again is first time we've had a quarterback advantage consistently in 3 decades. So Ohio State only favored by they're an away favorite by a field goal. Notre Dame is getting a bunch of players back for this weekend that have been out injured the last couple of weeks, so hopefully they can make a difference. But Ohio State's defense is going to get nasty. They are going to put a ton of pressure on our offensive line and on Sam Hartman. I hope that our offensive line can do something, maybe help in the run game, create some space. But if I'm a gambling man, I turn around and bet on something on this game. Leave it at that. And that's all I got in the Big Ten. Going across the Big 12, their conference play isn't quite as exciting. Kansas, BYU, 2 undefeated. Kansas is a football school now, let's all remember. Oklahoma State going to try to bounce back after losing $300,000 to the University of South Alabama. And then also
Go Jags!
Final thing, again, we're going to just chat with Texas going to Baylor. Baylor is a much better team than Wyoming. Texas is going to go on the road, even though they are a heavy favorite. Texas should win this, but questions can come back and dominate after that Wyoming game and consistently put the pressure on this Baylor team throughout the entire game. There could be some questions raised in Austin, but they will be an undefeated team going into next week. Brian, how about you? You got ACC, Pac-12.
Well, I'll tell you, the ACC, we've kind of discussed Florida State and Clemson to a degree. However, Coach and you said I'm on the Florida State bandwagon, and I kind of am. And
we just report what you say.
I don't wear red. I don't wear garnet from after Labor Day until after we play Ohio State. So you'll see me in blue, gray, everything, but not garnet or scarlet.
What about baby blue or turquoise?
I love those colors. So you'll see me on a boat down at Dolphin Island at some point in baby blue. So that's a good color for me. But to take the ACC, you can go Duke plays UConn, Miami plays Temple. They're going to take care of business. The quarterback play in the ACC is probably the thing that I'm most following. You've got Andy Van Slyke, or not Andy, Van Slyke from Miami, and you've got all the quarterback play in the ACC is great right now. So I don't know. We're going to get into draft picks, and we're going to have Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl on at some point, but UNC Pittsburgh should be an interesting game. Coach, do you think UNC can stop Pittsburgh offense?
I know Coach Chiswick has had some issues, but I don't necessarily think Pitt is that prolific. So maybe they'll batten the hatches and get them a win.
Yeah. So, and one thing that I just want to correct on our first podcast that we did with me and Keath, and we met up here at Cottage Hill Package Store, I told him, I said, the Pac-12 is dead. And let's don't even cover it. And now I've kind of reversed my course. I've watched USC. I've watched UCLA. I've taped games for a couple weeks now and went back and watched that. I think Utah is probably the most interesting team out in the Pac-12. So.
And Utah always is. I mean, they play a different brand of football. They're like they take on the personality, like we talked about. The Lions have taken on their coach's personality. I mean, Utah is what they are, and they will get after you. I mean, they ain't afraid to go anywhere and play. They're physical. They run the ball. They play great defense. They kick. It's always been a pretty good formula, and they continue to do that because that's what they're coached with.
One thing I want to discuss with Danielle is the ACC quarterbacks. To me, having a quarterback back, Jordan Travis is doing a great job at Florida State. And Coach knows, and Coach and I and Keath, we do these texts all day. And it's the most entertaining thing in the world. Keath, do you want to talk about your tattoo, or do you want to go ACC quarterbacks? Well, I'm sorry, I'm not getting the sound right.
Yeah, Keath, yours is not coming through very well, bud.
So, no. Danielle.
Got a lot of cracking going on in the background, too.
Danielle, can you
Not really.
Danielle, can you talk about the ACC quarterback play?
Yeah, I can. The ACC is in a unique position this year, not only because you have Jordan Travis, who is here. Always been a huge fan of his since he, transferred here years ago from Louisville. He was trained to take over, like I said, for Lamar Jackson there. We needed a dual threat quarterback at that time really badly. When you're having offensive line problems, you definitely do. Need somebody that will keep it and run. Part of what I've kind of seen lately is us learning to battle dual. You saw what happened with Boston College. But the rest of the schools, Tyler Van Dyke, yeah, I'm going to go throw up because I'm talking good about Miami. But yeah, they look good. Drake May, of course, UNC, all of them, they look good. You just can't. It's one of these years, and it kind of was last year. I mean, we had to deal with Sam Hartman, we had to deal with other players before they left or whatever, and potentially won or lost games. But this year's a little different. Speaking to Clemson, Cade is definitely a player that can run. He can definitely throw. Well, we know that. So FSU's battle tomorrow to me is more like what we game planned for LSU. Last week with Boston College was something. That was just a dual threat running all over the field. We couldn't contain them. Tomorrow's a bigger deal. But overall, the ACC quarterback play it's been tremendous. I mean, there's
exceptional.
Really nothing you can say.
Coach, how do you handle the dual threat quarterback that can throw and run?
I'm gonna back up with Danielle a little bit. Also, Riley Leonard at Duke.
Riley Leonard from
he's a
Fairhope,
Alabama. Kid. I mean, we live in Fairhope. He's a Fairhope kid. Fairhope's playing at home tonight for homecoming. If this conversation happens and I don't mention Riley Leonard, I'm gonna get pulled over and get a traffic citation in the next 4 days.
I'll tell you, Coach. He was one of my favorite. He was one of my favorite athletes whenever I moved back to Mobile to watch. And I always thought it was going to be on the basketball court. And he trained with David Morris. And decided football was for him. And I don't know if it was, you can probably fill me in, if it was David Cutcliffe of the Manning Academy. And David Cutcliffe is good friends with Archie and Eli and Peyton
Sure.
and everybody. So tell us a little bit about Riley Leonard.
Well, and Riley, I've met him one time. I was in a Fairhill practice this spring, and a group of alumni had come out, sort of something they do there every year. They were having a cookout for the team just right off the practice field, and Riley had come back for that to be there with it, and just very mild-mannered, soft-spoken young man. Very respectful, really like. I mean, he reminds you of a Manning. He just does a Daniel Jones. He reminds you of those kind of guys in terms of how he carries himself and the kind of guys
I like what his mom texts him, Coach.
David has had experience with and does a good job with.
I like what his mom texted him.
Did
you see that?
Do you suck?
Yeah.
Just to remind you, keep your head on straight.
That's like the John Gottfried school of raising boys.
That's a good mama.
Yeah.
And as far as dual threat quarterbacks, you've got to have somebody, a rat in the hole spy person to handle that guy who then can tackle him. I mean, it's one thing to have a guy do it. It's another thing to have a guy who can actually tackle him. I mean, we prep for those guys, and I've got to go to the defensive meeting and say, all right, who's the rat in the hole on Kadarius Toney? Who's going to be the rat in the hole on him? Well, Willie is. Willie can't tackle him, guys. We don't have a chance to tackle him. We're going to be on the next level in a hurry. So it gets down to matchups at the end of the day, and who can tackle the guy. So do you slow rush, mush rush, just sort of try to make him throw, see if he can beat you throwing without creating that other element with his legs. There are different ways to do it. You can all out press them, just let it rip and bring one more than they've got, and make him get it out of his hands in a hurry. But that again, and because at that point, your defense knows it's going to come out quick. It's either going to be a slant or a fade. So there's a limited number of things they can throw if you bring the house. So there are ways to do it, but you can't have just one. I mean, you got to have multiple.
Coach,
they will find you.
That reminds me of Charlie Ward. Danielle knows Charlie Ward pretty well.
Sure.
I think they're friends. When Charlie Ward was playing, you never knew what he was going to do, and I think
point guard on the basketball team. I mean, he was the prototype guy for that offense that everybody sort of went looking for Charlie Wards after that. We got to find a guy like that. And
I think that's what the NFL still is looking for in Drake May and some others. And like I said, we'll have Jim Nagy on to discuss the draft later on in the season. So, Keath, back to you. You've got mic problems, though. Keath?
Yeah, Keith's stuff is messed up.
Keith's struggling. Keath,
and I think he knows it.
Coach. Okay, so let's go to the SEC with you.
Yeah,
Keith, you need to unplug.
There you go. That's probably the best thing to do. And Danielle, Danielle, I do want to apologize. I mean, you come on here. I'm assuming to hang out with real men and talk sports and enjoy the testosterone of the moment. And we get off talking about color schemes that look good on Brian. I don't know how we started chasing that rabbit, but I do apologize for that.
Half of my fan base is still complaining about the uniforms last weekend because we wore white pants because we were playing against Boston College and the white helmets. I'm used to it. Just trust me. I'm very used to it.
The Southeastern Conference and the South, and all of a sudden I got the South in my notes. I'm going to cover one other game outside the league.
South Alabama, hopefully.
Ole Miss and Alabama. I still think Alabama's going to win the football game. Charlotte at Florida, of course, the Gators. UAB at Georgia, another payday for UAB. Arkansas at LSU. I was very disappointed in Arkansas last week. I think LSU will handle them. Memphis at Missouri. I think Missouri will win that football game too. Mississippi State at South Carolina ought to be a good game, but still SEC at home. I mean, if it's a 50-50 game, you go with a home team. Texas San Antonio at Tennessee. Big Orange. Auburn at Texas A&M, same thing, 50-50 game, but you got to go with a home team in the league.
Coach, can you break down Alabama Ole Miss? Like what you're looking for as a coach. Obviously, you're not going to be like Lane Kiffin and call out who Saban's defensive coordinator is, or
Right.
juice to chase a tease. So,
Well, and I'll finish up with I said again, I would never pick Vandy ever again, and Kentucky. Vandy's the only home team that I'm going against. So, anyhow, and so the again, Alabama, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is. Alabama's still got to run the football. Alabama's got to do things more run game with their quarterback, more designed quarterback runs, quarterback power, quarterback lead, quarterback counter, quarterback run RPO, quarterback draw.
how about a bootleg? That's the
and,
thing that I miss most about college football is the bootlegs.
They run nakeds off the stretch. I mean, everybody's got that in and slide the tight end H-back out the back door and flip it to him, and everybody's got that play. And even the folks with the 6'6" guys who can't run all have that play in. And so I think Bama's got to do that. I think Ole Miss, is again they are the same as the Hugh Freeze Auburn offense in a lot of ways. I think the game's going to be over with in a hurry because of the clock being the way it is today. And not as many points as back in the days you would expect to be scored. And I think it's going to be more of a true SEC, punch you in the mouth kind of football game before it's all said and done.
Well, Coach, let me ask you this. Who is the best team in the state of Alabama right now?
Well, you want the team who has the best record, the best rating, or the team that would line up and go in any stadium and whip you?
Your prediction.
Alabama still goes anywhere in the state and whips any team in the state. I mean, They got the best players, the best everything. I don't care what anybody else's record is. I mean, who's going to beat them? You spend time at the Beau Rivage. Who would you bet straight up against Alabama? Nobody.
Not anybody in the SEC West at this point.
And now the last game I'll cover from the South is my alma mater, University of North Alabama and UT Martin. The only reason I'm covering that is because they are recognizing the 30th anniversary of the 1993 National Championship team this weekend at homecoming. And that team, no matter who you root for, no matter what their record is, University of North Alabama, 1993, 1994, 1995, won 3 national championships and won 44 games. I don't know if anybody's team, other than maybe Mount Union, that has won 44 games in 3 years.
Coach,
kudos to my alma mater, to the Lions. My name used to be on all the records in the back, in the 80s. Now I'm listed under Letterman. So they totally just annihilated all my stuff. So anyhow.
Coach, I went to Mount Union's camp, and had I walked on my freshman year at Mount Union for Larry Karras, who, you want to talk about an excellent program and just people that just continue to win. That's literally what he did, and I don't have any regrets, Danielle, but at some point I could have walked on and never lost a college game that year in 1995. So,
right.
And I had a friend that was there, and he transferred after 1 year, and I still make fun of him. So, Danielle, what are you looking forward to this weekend besides FSU Clemson? Rest, sleep. You're probably. I told somebody about you today. I was like, I've never met somebody that's so successful in so many different areas.
Define success. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm very, very, like I said, I bleed garnet gold. And the fact that it's a noon game at Clemson. Last time I was in Death Valley was 2019. Don't even really want to discuss that. One of my favorite players ended up severely injured. It's a beautiful campus, beautiful facilities, very nice fans. But I need FSU to win this game. And because we're playing at noon, that's kind of going to set my tone, I think, for how.
No, explain why noon games suck for Florida State.
Oh, the
Because
ACC,
Madison Social, who has the best BLT dip, and I'm going to be over there pretty soon.
Shout out to Matt Thompson and the BLT dip and Mad So. No, the ACC stuck us with noon games for a whole lot of years, and in Tallahassee, I want people to understand our September is potentially your July. So you're at a noon game and the temperature's potentially 110 degrees. And we're talking about humid weather down here. This ain't dry heat. This is humid heat. So I'm talking about like the heat index. And so it was one of those things we got stuck with them for years. One thing Michael Alford has done a really good job of, and the athletic department, our coaches as well, is you'll notice FSU playing in primetime matchups a lot, starting with last year with LSU, and then we played Sunday night this year with LSU. We're doing primetime matchups on different days that people wouldn't expect. That's brought in a lot of revenue. So yeah, noon games, we're just not fans. But I mean, at the same time, I think Florida State fans, the vibe here right now is kind of that takes the edge off of. If you think back to the last time Florida State beat Clemson, which was many
What year
years.
was that?
That was when we won the national championship. Did we win the win after year? It was 2014. It was a long time ago. I don't even want to say it out loud. Primetime matchups, they're riding the buses around. You're dealing with the most hyped environment ever. And so I've even talked to some Clemson fans that are like, I'm happy it's a noon game because y'all are just going to feed off that atmosphere. So yeah, we'll find out by this time tomorrow. I love this team. I love this team. I can't say they're a 1999 team. I don't think I'll ever be able to say that about another team, period. 1999 was 1999. I love this team, though, and I believe in them. I think Jordan Travis, I don't know if you guys watched the interview he did and the clip where he was talking about how the bad times he got through and how God has been faithful and, how he just trusted him and everything. And it's one of those things where it's just spiritual and you want that.
Coach, we're a little bit about spiritual here on the Unblocked podcast.
And you start getting into that. I mean, you even in the National Football League, how many top quarterbacks are Christians? The kind of people that those owners and those people want to bring in that they know are going to lead. They're going to lead in the locker room. They're not going to embarrass their city. They're not going to embarrass their franchise. And I know at least for sure 8 of the 32 are outspoken Christians. There's probably more than that. But and then the same thing with this kid at Florida State and even universities. They're looking for those kind of guys. I mean, that just are going, again, they check all the boxes and they're going to impact their communities and make their communities a better place because they're there. And that's what you're looking for. And now, I know we're getting close to 45 minutes, which is sort of where we top off. And I cannot believe that nobody mentioned Colorado playing Bo Nix in Oregon. I bring my props every week. If Colorado gets mentioned, I put them on, and nobody did it, so I did it for myself. Does Prime go to Eugene and win? I don't know, but I wasn't going to have these glasses sitting there looking at me and me not come on tonight.
You guys talk about me being on the Florida State bandwagon. Are you on the Prime bandwagon?
Oh, no, I just like to put my sunglasses on at night.
There was a song about that a couple years ago.
Colorado.
Danielle, do you want to break down Prime? What did people in Florida State think of Deion dismissing Florida State as his college?
I think a lot of things. Florida, that's a really tricky subject. It depends on who you ask. I love him. He's part of our history. He's part of our legacy. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's how I grew up. Deion was a huge part of that. I know for a fact Coach Bowden and Coach Andrews loved him and love him, Coach Andrews. But I mean, So it's one of those things where a lot of people had a lot of problems. I think a lot of people. So I'd have to fractionalize based on what I read. Some people wanted us to hire him back in the day. There's rumors that he had not officially graduated from college yet, which I don't know if you have to have, the NCAA rules on that. That's a whole nother issue. And we hired Norvell. Then he went to Jackson. He graduated, went to Jackson State. And so some people, I think,
Talladega College, right?
yes.
Yep.
So I
Talladega
think
College.
here's what I believe right now. Deion Sanders is doing phenomenally well, and I'm so proud. And he is exactly where he needs to be. And Mike Norvell is doing phenomenally well, and I'm so proud. And he is exactly where he needs to be.
I'll tell you, Coach, I think I looked at the ratings from that Colorado State game, and I know you were asleep in bed, and I stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, and woke up for the Ravens game at 7 o'clock the next morning, and it received, I think, 10.5 or 11 million viewers, and that's the third most watched night game on ESPN. And everybody tells me, well, when the players get paid, we're not going to watch college football. Well, I've just got one word for him, and I hate to cuss, but bullshit.
Yeah,
because
that was the game that I could not sleep. I
It's still
didn't expect anything less.
it's still about entertainment. People want to be entertained. I mean, why is WWE or whatever that is now? Why is it so popular? Everybody knows that those big people are not beating each other to death with chairs, and they don't care. I mean, you learn how to take the hit and roll and all that, and they know it, and they sell out. And
his personality is going to lead him into different jobs. And, Michigan State's going to open him. Danielle and I are going to do a talk with Todd Anson on Tuesday. But Michigan State's going to open. There's going to be NFL jobs. And I know he dismissed all those rumors. But if your son goes to the NFL and you've got a chance to coach him, I don't know, Coach, what would you do?
I wouldn't leave my Lamborghini in a no parking zone and get a ticket. That's the first thing that I would avoid, and that's not a good. Nobody's ever towed mine. I mean, ever. And who can say? I mean, you're gonna go to the NFL. Well, again, who's to say who's going to draft him when he goes? Is that team going to have a job open? Are you going to be? Is it a package deal? Does he go to the worst team in the league and then they hire Deion with him? There's so many.
I think Michigan State's open now, and you could look at around the SEC and kind of predict who comes, open at the end of the season based on when we get to the fourth or fifth week. So, and not saying that's perfect, but it kind of is one of those things that people are going to call Deion because he moved the needle. And I think it's great for Colorado. Boulder's one of the most wonderful areas that I've ever visited, and the people are great. And I think it's great what he's done there. They've sold out all their season's games on Monday, so that's pretty awesome. So, but lastly, Danielle, we want to thank you for being here, and tell everybody to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all the social medias. If you have questions, just text any one of us and we'll get back to you. I've appreciated the questions that I've gotten from all the Browns fans and all the Ohio State Buckeyes fans. But at some point, we need to get other fan bases involved. And appreciate anybody liking, sharing. Huh?
I know, I'm saying I'm here. Other fan
There
base.
you go. There you go.
Danielle's going to answer all the NIL questions on Tuesday with Todd Anson, and I think that's going to be a great episode, and looking forward to it, Coach. Coach, tell us what you have coming up with
with my project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly, as part of the Unblocked podcast network, weekly I'm going to interview faith-based coaches in high school and college, and again let them tell their story. Tell us about why you got into coaching. Tell us about how you've coached kids through your career. How has your faith impacted your coaching style? All those things. We'll start with Danny Smith, who was a defensive coordinator for me for a number of years, as a retired coach from the state who's in Mississippi now, a great friend, and we'll start with him next week. And we call that Coach Unblocked. And looking forward to doing that next week.
Danny Smith was with Mobile Christian, correct, with Ronnie Cottrell, a Florida State legend.
He was with Ronnie for a little bit, and he got his retirement from the state of Alabama, and a few years from there, and went to Mississippi as coach at George County, Mississippi, who has a top college prospect at quarterback playing for them this year. So they've got a pretty good football team. So Danny will be my first guest, and we'll take it from there.
Fantastic.
Well, I think
anybody hear me yet?
Keith.
Hey man,
we can hear you.
Welcome back.
There we go.
Yeah, it was like it was something just crackling in the background the whole time when you were.
There's
in
something
the others.
about Keith and I's Yeti microphones that just do not work.
No. This wasn't the microphone. This was a me issue. I had just a couple other things going on, and I just it just took a minute to connect the dots and figure out where the air was. So
Danielle,
hopefully I'm back and I sound better.
It was not your fault, Danielle.
It wasn't my fault this time.
It was not.
No.
We hope to have lawyer, weather forecaster Danielle on in future episodes, and we can kind of talk about that in the future. So
yeah.
So Keith, can you sort of take us out of this thing since we're pushing about an hour now? I'm old. I'm gonna need to go to the bathroom here pretty quick.
Well, the game is still nothing.
Coach, don't share that on Facebook. That clip.
You said BS. I can't say I got to go to the potty. I mean, come
there
on.
You go.
Okay.
Hey, but anyway, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Danielle, thank you for joining us. Danielle, what's your Twitter or any social app media stuff you want people to follow you at?
Danielle Joyner Kelley on Facebook. Twitter, I'm at DKelley, Kelley 21.
Make sure you hit that second E. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Hit the second E. I'm not. I have an EY. It's DKelley 21.
Awesome. We'll tweet that out. And then also for everyone following along with us, I apologize for my mic issues, but I am back set. It was me, not the microphone. Now I got me and the microphone working together, so we're good to go. But follow us, like us, do all the cool stuff on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And if you've got questions or if you've got a business or an event that's coming up that you want to promote with us, shoot us an email at unblockedpodcast@gmail.com.
And Keith, we've got two sponsors now. We've got Baker Metal Roofing and Supplies, and then we've got OsteoStrong. So
awesome. We'll start plugging them more regularly then.
Absolutely. So
and anyway, yeah. You can follow along with us on our YouTube page. I started posting a little bit of my own content called On Paper with Keith, because on paper, everything's supposed to work out, but we all know that rarely does. But check back with us on Monday. We're going to round up what happened in college football over the weekend, and we'll be joined by Rocky Alt from Team Focus. So from Coach, Brian, Danielle, I'm Keith, and we will see you on Monday right here on the Unblocked podcast.
Have a blessed weekend.